Okay, we're going to take a look at Power Apps in an application I created at a high level, but technical, also a technical summary level, so to speak. So it's already created, and it's something I'm going to be using in my laboratories for I can mash around with data and have some editing screens that I can use to edit the screens, edit the data. So anyways, here we go. So I'm going to go into you'll go into your Office 365 account. And in your Office 365 account, you'll go and click up on that checkerboard, and you'll see Power Apps, as well as all your other apps. So go into Power Apps. Now, this isn't the beginning tutorial, but it's so I'm just going to show you, pretty basic stuff, but it's not a complete video. There's many other sites that do that sort of thing. I just want to give you a look at this, what an application has to, a basic application can do. So here I'm into Power Apps, right? It gives you several different kind of templates and wizards you can go through here. And to start with, I'll go to Apps. And I'm just going to show you the app itself. I call it Activities Club. What it does is it allows people to register for certain sports and or activities. And eventually they'll be able to text message into the service and say they want to play at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock that day. And the service will then text out to all the different other players that have about the same level a text saying that this person wants to play, and if they want to play, to then text them. And it acts as a middleman. But that piece, you won't be showing, but I will show you the screens that make up where I put in the basic master file and basic master tables. So here's the application. I'm just going to click on it and run it. Now here it says the application uses features that come with PowerApp's premium plan. Start a trial to use. Unfortunately, this thing is kind of wacky this way. I do own a premium plan, and I also own a per application plan. A premium plan, I believe, is $10 a month. And it comes with so that you can use databases like SQL Server, certain premium data connections. SQL Server is one of them, and since this is built on SQL Server on the back end, I had to purchase a premium plan. Now, if you're just using Excel or something as your back end data, I don't think that's going to be the case. So depends on what kind of data connections you're going to need to use as to whether you need to purchase this additional plan. Okay, so looks like it should be letting me go straight into an application since I paid for that, but this doesn't always do that right. So let's go back, and I'll run it a different way. And this time, that's why I'm sorry, this is a good point. The reason why this isn't working is because I'm on the wrong application. This one doesn't have a application subscription to run it as a subscription. This is an old version of the program. And what you'll see when you go up to environment up here, okay? So what you'll see when you come up to this up at the top, it's easy to miss. Just like I missed it as I came into it, but it's good for instruction. This says NA default. Well, I also have an environment called production, okay, which when you click on here, you'll see production and other environments. So I need to click on production, and you'll see now I have some different applications come up, okay. Now I know that this is the one that I'm paying for. So if I click on that, then I can get to this application, not only from whenever I log into Office, I can get to that application. I can even get to that application through the PowerApp application, okay? As long as I log in under my credentials that I log into my Office with. Now, if I want to share this application with somebody else, then they would also have to purchase a license for that plan. So it would be costing them $10 or whatever it is costing me per month in order to access this PowerApps application. Those are downsides, right? The upside is that it's very configurable, and that is, it doesn't take the level of programming that, if you created your own ASP.NET or something like that, it might take to create. On the other, and it's totally, it's a PaaS, so it's a platform as a service, so you don't have to, load it up to the web service and everything else, or create a web service and everything else to run this thing. So it's a quick application builder, and but it does get a little tricky in it because you can't do, when you're doing it in ASP.NET or C#, using that kind of language, you can really control things maybe better. So you have to understand the framework on this one too. So that's where there is complexity. So anyways, this is my own look and feel. This isn't a template that they come up with, but it's generally very similar. Some similarities. So here's, I'm just calling them forms. And basically these are all input and maintenance forms, okay? We have, and these also, so if I want to see the country, as you see, Mexico, United Kingdom. If I want to see activity type, we're talking about handball or handball. Let's change that. Save. Okay. Description's not too good. So click on the save button, and now it's corrected, right? And all of these screens or forms are just like this, right? So if I go to activity type, I go to level, right? When you sign up, you need to have a level, right? Are you advanced ping pong player or table tennis player, or are you a beginner or whatever? And that way, this is what the whole system is based on, is trying to set people up to other people that are interested in playing, kind of a just-in-time situation where it's gonna, you put in the request and it's going to happen all the same day, and you're going to request whatever time that day you want to play. So it's not too sophisticated, and actually it would need a lot more work to really put it as a business or a real service. But anyways, it holds its own for, my laboratory experiments on data. This will also be put into migrated into a Databricks data lake house, and again, that's part of the lab, and maybe some other examples will be coming out of this for the Databricks videos, as well as maybe some future additional Power BI videos I do. Okay, so again, it's good, I think, to have a full database. So in fact, speaking of database, let's look at the data model for this application. And what I did was, just to make it convenient, I threw the data model in as a screen itself. So here's my old version. I'm not going to show you that, but as you see, it's just a normal ER diagram. Again, there's more constraints I would put in here. But I wanted to show you this is a SQL database, and again, it's over there in Azure. So it's sitting in Azure, and I'm accessing it into Azure. So here it is when you look at it through Management Studio. Okay, and it's all the different ones, and all the different tables. Okay, so that's very nice, since I'm originally a database guy. Still am, but a lot more than that, I like to think. But anyways, so here's the ER diagram, okay, for this. And as you see, each one of these names of the tables is basically inside the menu. So if I want to set up a player setup, right? So I go to the United States, it knows that it's connected to Texas and Houston and whatever other states. There's Florida in here, and there's Miami. So Victor Montague is in Miami. He doesn't have any, he's as a player, but he doesn't have any sports he's involved with, right? So if we want to involve him in a sport, we would add a record for him. And so in this case, we would say, okay, he's player ID 17, which we don't really care. That's his internal number. But I put these on here just so that if we have to troubleshoot, I don't have to go look up the IDs, that kind of thing. But anyways, we're going to make him active. Okay, so that should stay like that. Active type, I'm going to make him a tennis player. And level, I'm going to put him as he says he's an intermediate. Now what these little bubbles do is this says, okay, you're going to be accepting, these emails are going to go, once you send in a text message saying you want to play at 5 o'clock today, right? These text messages are going to look at the whole database, and let's say the database has, 2,000, names in Miami, right? And it's going to want to send all 2,000. Well, you don't want to send all 2,000. A lot of those are advanced players. A lot of them are beginner players. They won't be a good match for you, right? So what you do is the player who registers will say, well, I'm happy to play with an intermediate, a lower intermediate than myself. And as high as I'll go up to a high intermediate, because I go to high intermediate. I don't want to go to advanced because they're too good for me. It's not going to be any good. I'm not that ready for that. So those are the ones. Actually, in this case, since he's going to be on the tennis roster from Miami, the intermediate to high intermediate, those are the texts he'll receive from people requesting to play that day. Only between the intermediate low and the intermediate high. So all intermediates he's going to accept messages from. He doesn't want to accept any from beginners. He doesn't want to accept any from people that are too high either. So then who is he going to solicit to, right? Or send to? Well, he's going to do the same. He knows last time he did the 3 to 5, he got way too many responses. So he's going to just make it intermediate this time. And to intermediate, and hopefully he won't get so many people. And so this is a profile configuration. This is going to, every time he sends out a text saying he wants to play, the system will come back in, check out his player ID, check out that he's at, it's tennis, and then it's going to then generate those text messages that are going to go out. So it's a kind of interesting I think it's interesting. And so so now I'm just going to save this record, right? And now you're going to see this will go over here, right? So now it went to tennis for Victor. Now he's a member of tennis. So if we want him to be a paddleball, talking South Florida stuff here, I'm just going to fill these in real quick. So I'm just going to call him beginner, beginner up to intermediate, and then he'll receive stuff from a beginner to intermediate. Okay, so now we got 2 of them in here for him, and you see how this is a PowerApp, and it works pretty good for little stuff like this. And again, the concept is that. So now if I went to look at some other people, like in Texas, in Houston, I have Julius Caesar. He got in there somehow. I don't know why he's in there, but then Davy Crockett's over there. We can expect him in Texas. And Abraham Lincoln, I think he's from Illinois, but he's moved to Texas or something. I'm not sure. So anyways, that's it. So once you go there and you click on one of these bubbles here, this is called a gallery, and this is called a gallery. This is what they call and we're going to go into these screens in a little while. This is called a form, this box. This is where you're doing your edits and your inserts, right? That's what we're doing here. That's where all the action happens for maintenance, right? And here it says, your locator stuff, right? So, and again, these are locator buttons, right? So if I go to United Kingdom, London, South London, I guess there's no one in South London. So anyways, we haven't got, so anyways, this is just a small thing. So let's just go over now. We showed you the player level. Obviously, before you get to player level, you got to put in your players. So we got Houston, right? And we got Arlington. That's where I live, right outside Dallas. And there's nobody in Arlington. Boo-hoo, right? So let's put in me, okay? So there we go. So let me just throw in some sort of user ID, right? Not a very good one, but it's something, right? Player description, old people. Okay, so anyways, there's my entry into Arlington. I hit plus, I just ruined my whole thing. Should hit save. Save it. That's good. So now Greg Koopman is a player in the system. Now, if Greg Koopman, I can go back to Greg Koopman just by clicking on him. And I'm going to say, I got cold feet. I don't want to participate. So I'm going to mark my active to inactive. So now I'm inactive. Okay. Anyways, so this is kind of the screens we're talking about. These are basic screens, but they all the data is being connected backwards to our SQL server, right? Right in here. So if I go over to player, right, I'll go to player here, let's do a select. We should see Greg Koopman in there at the bottom. See Greg Koopman, see Julius Caesar, and it's just it's a good database. This is what I like about this PowerApps, is that I can create stuff. The way back when a long time ago when I created in Fox Pro, we could do the screen and the database all at the same time, and a Visual Basic, that's kind of fun. And it did it in kind of a similar way, actually, except for it's all cloud. So cool. So let's go back and let's look at some of the other aspects of this. So that does it for these forms and screens, right? We don't really need to look anymore here. Right. So they're this is just hitting the top of the iceberg, but the basics, right? So let's go ahead and I'm going to close that up. Activities app, I'm just going to close it. And now we're back at the screen where we started from. And instead of going to play, we're going to go to edit. So now we're going to pull back the curtains and see what's behind the application, behind these forms. Okay, so this is where you would create your application. So it's loading, and you can create the application. If you have an Office 365 account, you don't even need any premium or application. You can just create application there for free, but you won't be able to share it, but you can use it. And you won't be able to use SQL Server and some of the other connectors that are premium. Okay, so let's take a look at what we got here. So here on the left, well, let's say the far left, right? Our application, it comes up with the latest screen I left there. And so if I come up here, expands the names of, different things I can use. So if I want to use a tree view, let's call it tree view. So it might come up like this. So if I want to see the objects, because everything's an object, right? In programming these days. So same with PowerApps. They're all objects. The big object is the screen. The little object is the little asterisk, right? So this is called the label. This is called the label. That's a text box. That's a drop-down box. This big check is a form object. This big rectangle is a gallery, okay? And there's a name for everything, right? So, and they give you the names of most of these things as defaults as you drag and drop them. So if I wanted to drag in I could do insert, and I could go ahead and create a new screen for that matter, or a new form, or bring in some media like a video or everything, all sorts of things here. So This is where you go to insert your different objects, right? But once you've dropped them in here, then they're configurable. And so now that we have the screen open, right? So let's go to tree view. This is going to show us all the objects. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of this one over here for a second. And over here now we have the tree view of our objects by clicking that area here. So here's our screens. So do they look familiar? Screen activity country, screen activity blob, screen activity type, screen activity level, okay, and so on, right? So all the ones that are in the model I basically have connected to here. And so when we come into these areas, let's say a simple one, which is country, you can see there's label gathering, and they give all these numbers. Now, if you went through and you really name these exactly what they are, I don't think you'd ever finish the application. So unfortunately, there is a little bit of, I mean, you could, but it's just very time consuming, and this, for what my purposes were, I didn't want to go through all that. So I just used a lot of the given names, okay, because they do it so that they are unique across the application. So label area, when you click on label area, right, it will show you where it's highlighted, right? So you see this is the, okay, label area 1, label area gathering, okay, icon clear country, right? Where did that go? Okay, right. So here's a search box, and as I go icon clear country, that means I'm looking for a country, and this does erase, right? And here's so every one of these has something to them. Once you click on them here, right, the objects, so that little eraser, every one of those have a bunch of methods that are associated with them. Now, let's say there's 20, 25, 30 methods for every object. When it really comes down to, especially with this simple application, number one, they give you all the defaults, and number one, if you size it, they size the default for you. You don't have to go in there and size it. If you want to get real meticulous, you can go ahead and hard code it, inside the method. But the ones you really need to, there's usually 1 or 2 or 3 of these properties or methods, you want to call them. I guess these would be more like, I think these are called more like properties maybe. So these are over here, right? So now if I go over to this text box, it will change. Now I have a whole nother unique set of these, right? Now the ones that are highlighted are the ones that are customized, right? Now that one isn't customized, but if I click on Mexico on that box, then we might see more customization somewhere. I will see it there. So basically though, not only that, so now I'm at a higher level. So this is the form. So as you see, once I click on that graphical, it will highlight the object it's on. So it's on form country. And under form country, when you expand it, you see country name, which is this data card. This whole includes country and Mexico. And if we go to card value 26, there you're on Mexico, right? And when these are created, okay, so that's how these work. So basically, we can click on any one of these and they'll highlight where you're at, and they'll have all these different items. Now you can look at it from this perspective, or you can come over here and get this this object here, flyout, I guess you call it, and the flyout will show you the same things that are over here under this drop down, especially for advanced. I don't think border would show up here. These border would be more like I guess border does come up there, border. Yeah, but still, I don't know whether it comes up exactly. I think there's more properties over on this flyout. So if you go to advanced, you'll see that for this particular gallery country, this gallery, you'll see that on select is this code. and items has special code here. So if I go over here and I say on select, you'll see that that code up here is the same as this code. And if I change it here, it will change up here. So there's many ways to edit these different forms and the objects within them. And again, I'm not going to go into these things. There's a lot better videos that can do that. Yeah, so, but I want to give you an overview of kind of what you're getting into here. So that's that. And if we look at a drop down, right here's like our forms. And so right here, you see those are our form menu, so we can select them. So when I select them, these are the items in the drop down, right? And on select, which is a method, you'll see, my bad, on change, you'll see I've placed a lot of code in there, right? And basically the code says, if what you selected is activity type, then go to the screen called activity type. If it's city, go to the screen activity city, right? That screen. So that's what this does. So it's all logical. You do have to play with it. It does, it takes some time. These people that say you can do everything in a day, maybe you can, but to do it well in a day, I'm not so sure. But you just got to play at it. If you got to kind of, once I start playing with it, I can't seem to do anything else. So it's like a game, to me. I find programming that way, especially on forms and UIs and that kind of thing. What I like about this kind of thing, since I do SQL Server, it lets me control both sides of the equation, the UI and the SQL Server, so I can prototype and do proof of concepts really quickly. So that's why I'm doing that. So this is what I'm just showing you here, there. So I don't want to go any further on this. I think that's kind of, oh no, here's data, right? So every form is connected to data. So if I click on data, you have to have a connection to the data. And you see the diamond, that means you do a premium mode. And since these mean that this is in SQL Server, that's what this is. So let's say I want to add a new data, right? And that it's not in there. And I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to add, I need to add it. I can go to the current environment, or I can go down to connectors. And connectors, as you see, there's all sorts of connectors down here. Microsoft Teams, Azure Blob Storage. I connect to any one of these things. All right. And the ones with the diamond next to them, this figures, right? That's the one I'm using. That's the one I got paid for. All the rest of them, it looks like it's free. So, so you might be better off using some of those. But since I know SQL well, I've better, it's faster for me to do that. So, shouldn't be any problem. Add data. So I'm going to go with my connectors. I go to my SQL Server. Then I already have some SQL servers already ready. And the name of this database, I could go ahead and create another one, but I already have the ones already set for those other tables, right? So I'm creating another one, a connection to a new table. So here I'm going to go to Activities Club is the name of my database. So here it is. And now it's going to show me all the tables in my database, right? So I already have most of these already created, or already a form for them. So I would go ahead and do like a retired one, okay? Which I don't want to do right now. I can then add it to this form. But this form already has one, okay? So I'm not going to do that because then I have to redo it. But this form already has one, and basically if you go to the form, gotta make sure you click on the form and you can verify that. Again, I gotta jump out of here and go back to tree view. And there's my form, right? So now if I go to my form, I go to properties. This is what the data source you got to be able to fill in for your form, right? So here's country. And if I click, you can choose from all these that are already available. Now, if I added another one, let's say it's whatever continent, I would then have to go through the process I just showed you and then add continent. So here is the, so there's the country. Now, then if I go to edit fields, I can tell it what fields I want to automatically insert here, right? So these are already inserted. If I add a field, there's other columns here that I did not insert. So if I wanted to insert, let's say country ID, which I have no reason to because it's auto-generated. But let's say I want to do that. I'll add it. And now it's adding country ID. I'll click here. So as you see here, it's adding the country ID to the label, and it's smart enough to realize it's auto-generated, so it's not forcing it to be a regular text box. So that's how you get the data organized there. And once you go to edit fields, you'll see each one of these is a card. Okay, there's country ID, country description, country name, and you can do other things with these if you need to. The way the text box works, the way the editing works is that it's set up with an edit mode. In the edit mode, let's look. So if I hit a plus sign, right, you see new form, and then it sets the edit mode to false. Okay, and that then means that it's no longer, this will change to insert. The word will change to insert over here. And when I go to my save button, it submits the form, and it knows enough to submit everything on the form to the database. It creates its own insert command. Now, you could, in some other applications, I created some different icons, which I attached something like to a store procedure. So for something more, not just regular insert record by record, say I wanted to delete a bunch of records, or I want to, have, it's not typical form based, right? So then I might have my own icon, and instead of calling a submit form in that case, I wouldn't have a form. I would just say on select, right? On select. And it would join, actually what it has to do here, it can't just go out to the store procedure from this line. It actually calls a Power Automate connection. And that would connect to a store procedure, and then the objects here I could, form a store procedure and send the in parameters to the store procedure, and it would return back data, or it would execute some sort of DML command, like a insert, delete, or something like that. So that's how so it's not just, you're not stuck with just this form thing. If you want to go more custom, you can do it there and utilize store procedures. It does, like if I save this and inside the database, the country description was required, it couldn't be null, then it would not save this. It would generate an error. It will show me the error, or it shows me some sort of error. It doesn't show the greatest errors. Inside of here, though, you can have a error routine that will show that country description is required. Okay, so that's good too. So I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but again, it's not a formal beginner's class or anything like that, which you probably need to look at. I just want to give you a glimpse into into how this works. Okay, so I went through how the forms work, and I also how the data connects to the database, and then these different action buttons, right, and how they coordinate with a v-edit mode. And so as soon as you click on one of these boxes, right, what you'll see is that on select here, you'll see that I've changed the v-edit to true, or well, maybe not. Let's see here on select, right? When I click on the gallery, rather, I'm sorry, not the particular item in the gallery. The on select will kick in, and that will reset the form, which is this form here, and it will also reset the v-edit mode to true, which then kicks in the edit mode of this form. So now you're in edit mode, and then based on that, these labels, these values will automatically fill in based on the selection you made on the left side. As soon as you hit the plus sign, almost everything here, most of the time we'll just go ahead and go to blank. So you have a normal pure input form, except for certain things you might want to still keep, like your country ID in this case. Actually, in this case, you wouldn't. So everything would go into insert mode. Okay, so I think that gives you a little bit of a real high level insight into how this PowerApps works from a technical standpoint. So thank you for watching, and I hope this helped you.